So Stephanie White has now spoke about the whole Alyssa Thomas situation, and I don't really have that big of an issue with what she said. It's more of how she framed the entire narrative, which is a little bit like a little bit disappointing because let's be very clear. Let's be very, very clear. We all know that online stuff, like players are having to deal with online abuse they never had to deal with before. And if you've never sat through that, which the vast majority of people, I'm going to be honest, that are watching this video have not been on the receiving end of that. And it's bad. Like, it's tough to get through. It can be incredibly frustrating. It can be a horrible experience overall. So I get it, especially because they were not used to this, nor did the league put steps in place for them to, for the players to not have to, to be able to deal with this. So obviously that is the case. But we also have to take into account here that this is not like a one-sided thing, and this is something that kind of disappointed Stephanie White. So let's take a listen to the start of this. And by the way, we're not listening to the whole thing. Stephanie White calls it out and is like, there's no place in society for this. And there's nothing wrong with that, but let's take a listen to how it starts.
I got AB's sneakers on today. Before we start with questions, I just want to address, what's going on with AT.
I just want to address what's going on with AT, and then continuing to just say what I think in general isn't like a wrong statement to make, nor do I think it's the wrong messenger. It's, for me, it's like, this is a league-wide situation where obviously, it's something that happens in all sports, in all aspects of celebrity culture, which these players are celebrities now. It's something that is horrible to deal with, is not easy to deal with, by the way. It's not easy at all to deal with, because if you haven't done it, and everybody just says to me, it's like, oh, how would you know? Like, you don't say anything. It's like, I'll bring up the couple of times it happens, but it's like, you don't, as a person who's been in the somewhat public light, for the last 10 years, you're like, okay, it kind of comes to territory, and you can kind of get better at dealing with it. You know when to switch off. You know if you say something controversial and in a video and that video does well, you know to switch off. But it's like, I'm 30 years old and I've been in this world since I was 20. So it's kind of not an easy thing for me to do, but like late 20s make and early 20s make are two different people. I'm just going to leave this up here. This is people who are using the league, using our players to further divisive agendas, and she's not wrong. Like, to argue that Stephanie White's wrong in this scenario is just to decide that is just to say that reality isn't reality. And I think there has to be a whataboutism here. I think in general, like, there has to be a whataboutism when it comes to this situation, because what is the outcome of framing this as and this is, let's be very clear, whether it was intentional or not, Stephanie White has basically framed this as Fever fans bad. What is the outcome of this? What is the outcome of framing this entire scenario, which is, and by the way, I've always said this, the two players that get it the worst are Caitlin Clark and Angel. Caitlin gets it the worst, Angel second worst, and then whoever is in whatever quote unquote beef with them ends up getting it again, or getting it as much. But all the framing this as Fever fans bad means is that whether it's the media, whether it's other players, they feel emboldened to continue to go after Caitlin Clark, and that is what I feel like Stephanie White has done here. I don't think what Stephanie White said was incorrect, but when the coach of the team refuses to even talk about it, like when the coach of the team refuses to even mention what's happening to her players, because let's be very clear, Maisha Hines-Allen has been on the receiving end of this. even if you want to say, oh, whatever, Kate or whatever, Caitlin brings it on herself, or we don't care about we don't care when it happens to Caitlin Clark because I don't know, we don't like what Caitlin Clark looks like. But like, nobody reached out to Maisha Hines-Allen had to deal with this shit. There is obviously an Alyssa Thomas known fan page, and again, enough that Dwana Bonner has responded and I think offered to send him a fucking jersey. That has basically said they wish Alyssa Thomas had actually killed Caitlin Clark, which is madness. But with all of this situation, I'm just trying to find the Maisha Hines-Allen Twitter space. There's a Twitter space with people that, if you look at some of the names in this, the league has, these are social media accounts that players interact with, and they're in a Twitter space titled Maisha Hines-Allen is a last four letters of the animal raccoon, which is obviously a racial slur towards Maisha Hines-Allen. And allegedly, that is what Alyssa Thomas said on the court to Maisha Hines-Allen. Caitlin Clark has had to deal with everything from the media coming out there, the actual media, not even just online trolls. We know she's had to deal with online trolls. She's had to deal with stalkers. Sophie Cunningham's had to deal with stalkers. Lexi Hull's had to deal with crap. And the problem is that everything that Stephanie White said was correct. But she framed it in a way that it's only Alyssa Thomas. It's only the anti-Caitlin Clark people. It's only one side that is responsible for this, when the reality is this is a society problem. When, like, it's not the fault of people in UConn that Gabby Marshall got so much abuse that she had to delete her social media. It's not the fault of Angel Reese that Caitlin Clark's got this abuse. And you can say, oh, these people, you know, they bring it on themselves, or they do stuff. No, there's a line. There's a line. Like, you can call Alyssa Thomas a dirty player all you want, but if you cross the line to obviously any sort of threats or on her life, then that's a problem. And obviously with Caitlin Clark, yes, the people that have used Caitlin Clark as a symbol to spew hate towards other people are wrong. But at the same time, the people that have used Caitlin Clark as a symbol in the opposite way, that spread hate towards Caitlin Clark, that use Caitlin Clark as a way of, or that use Caitlin Clark's, where she's from, what she looks like, who she's in a relationship with, the type of person she's in a relationship with. They use all of those things as a justification to attack an individual are equally as wrong. Let's be real. Let's be very real. There is one group of dumbasses who are going out of their way to, they're just causing shit. It's two sides that want an excuse. Let's be very real. It's two sides that want an excuse to hate against another group of people, and they're both using this one player that is on your team to do it. But obviously, when it comes to Stephanie White in the WNBA media, it's okay to call out the dumbasses that are using Caitlin Clark to spread one agenda. But on the opposite side, that are trying to isolate one individual. And let's be very, very clear. If Caitlin Clark leaves the WNBA, they're not going to stop. Like, let's be very clear. These people are wishing death on Caitlin Clark. That is, for some of these people, they're that far with the extreme that outcome is going to be seen as a win for them because it's sticking it to the man and stuff. I don't know. And then you've got the whole hating Caitlin Clark as an individual as a form of allyship. That is equally as wrong as well. This is a whole societal issue. And Stephanie actually does touch on that. She does touch on that. And I'm going to give credit where credit's due. Like, I don't think what she said is bad, but the problem is the framing. The problem is the framing of all of this, as this is some one-side issue and not a big society issue. And the problem is that when you simplify a massive society issue that is not isolated in it is an issue in society in every aspect, no matter where you are in the world. It is a societal issue that cannot be simplified down into Caitlin Clark bad. And people are simplifying it down to Caitlin Clark bad. And you are Caitlin Clark's coach, and you won't even once, no matter what scenario, you have never spoken up to defend Caitlin Clark, the human being. You really haven't. You really haven't. You really haven't. And that's where I have a problem with this. You really, really, really haven't. And this is a continual situation where I'm not saying you're pushing that narrative because you're trying to tiptoe the lines, because you know that if you defend your player, you're going to get hate. You are scared to defend your player. You are scared to defend your player. And I get it, by the way, because if you defend Caitlin Clark, you're going to get death threats. I get it. I get it. If you defend Caitlin Clark, the friends in the WNBA might turn on you. I get it. It's shit. You're in a shit position. But I'm sorry. Like, you are the coach of the Indiana Fever. Your responsibility is to protect your players. Obviously, you're not throwing Alyssa Thomas under the bus. But when you make a statement that all it's done is allowed the people that are ganging up to hate on your players to continue hating on your players, and has effectively meant, and whatever, let's forget Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Let's forget that, because if you forget those two, you can't make it a race thing. Maisha Hines-Allen, you have essentially said that hate towards MHA to the players on your team is okay. And I know you're saying, oh, they're saying players in our league, the Fever players are also included in that. You got to be very, very clear. She called this the Alyssa Thomas situation. In this whole situation, let's be very clear. I can guarantee you Alyssa Thomas got death threats. I can guarantee you DeWanna Bonner got death threats. I can guarantee you Caitlin Clark got death threats. Sophie Cunningham got death threats. Maisha Hines-Allen got death threats. That's unfortunately a thing. And the problem is that this is an entire situation with two teams and multiple players on both teams, and you've simplified it down to be an issue with one player on one team who, let's be real, attacked the player on your team. To start off all this, attacked the player on your team. Anyway, I can't stand her. I can't stand Stephanie White. Like, do I hope behind the scenes that, you know, she's a great person? Do I have any reason to say that she's a bad person? No. Based on everything we've heard behind the scenes from these players, they love her. I can't stand her. As a coach of a team that I'm a fan of, I think she throws gasoline on the flames of every negative situation around Caitlin Clark. I don't think she's helping the online narratives. In fact, I think she's made every bit of it worse. And hopefully, maybe behind the scenes, she's been helpful with Caitlin to get through everything. I don't know. Publicly, she just consistently throws gasoline on the flames and refuses to defend not only Caitlin, but any of her players publicly. Any of her star players publicly, unless their name is Kelsey Mitchell. Because let's be real, she's not defending Leah Boston either. But anyway, I'll see you guys.